Welcome to the Greenroom, the podcast that bridges the gap between church production and every other aspect of a worship service. From programming directors to worship leaders, volunteers to vendors, tune in for inspiring conversations, expert advice, and a unique look into the intricate puzzle of church production. Here's your host, Aaron Freeman.
Hey, Jay, how's it going?
Good, Aaron. How are you, man?
I'm good. Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. I know we were both at church this morning, so we're recording in the evening, but I appreciate you coming on. This is awesome.
No worries, man. We didn't get to talk. We were both so busy with the usual stuff that happens on a Sunday morning. So
yeah. I wanted to touch base with you, but I mean, I didn't have a second really until we were done.
Right. And then that issue with troubleshooting. So I don't know if you knew about that. So.
Man. What, did you guys have an issue with audio?
Yeah. We lost tracks.
What was the audio issue?
We lost tracks from the East Auditorium.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I did not hear about this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's on the to-do list for this week. Potentially.
So that's a Dante issue, I guess, but we didn't lose the rest of the back line, just the 5 tracks channels. So it's weird, right? The second run through, second song, that's when I lost him.
Well, all right. We're having some issues with that. We'll have to figure that out. But you guys made it.
Yeah, thanks to Onyx repatching gave me stems, so I had a vocal stem for the track vocals, and then the other 4 tracks. So it was great.
Well, this sort of dovetails pretty well into like what I wanted to sort of pick your brain about was because you're a volunteer, right?
Yeah,
and you're thrown in there on a Sunday morning and in an audio world, and there's a lot of opinions in the audio world, and not everybody is comfortable with volunteers running sound, or audio and stuff like that.
Sure.
How'd you get plugged into that? And then too, like, how do you, what are your thoughts on volunteering in that sort of high stress environment?
Yeah, it definitely can be high stress at times. I guess I started off, my dad was a full-time minister of music and an evangelist. So he actually left the church world when I was probably 7 or 8, and he started traveling full-time as a music evangelist. So Bailey Smith, James Robinson, they have the big crusades, the big revivals, and he would do music in the choir. He did youth pizza nights, parties, stuff like that. So I started, hanging out with him at an early age and running sound for him or learning about some of those things. But I guess I've been doing it in church world since I was in my teens. Running in old analog days and stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of changes. Now we're in the digital world, a lot of stuff like that. So I've had to learn. I don't do this professionally, right? I should say I quote unquote do it professionally. I do contract out at other churches, in the Atlanta area. So, but North Point's a passion. It's my home church. I want to give back. I want to support what they're doing there. So I enjoy volunteering. I've been there over 20 years.
Wow. Oh, I did not realize it was that long.
Yeah. Yes.
I knew you'd been there for a long time, but I didn't realize it was that long.
Yep. One of the, there's a couple of others that have been there longer than me, Lou, I think, and a couple of others, but so I've been there 20 years, and, I started off the user rotation, monitors. Chris Briley was the audio director at that time, and Chris Lawton was my M1. And and so that first Sunday there, coming into such a larger environment, North Point, my previous staff positions at other churches in the Atlanta area were, choral, orchestra. It was a little different feel. North Point had already transitioned away from the choir and things like that. But I was still kind of in that old Baptist world, so to speak. But I really love what North Point was doing. And some of the things were new to me. We ran monitors from the desk, front of house desk, and not separate secondary monitor console. So getting into that, and that first Sunday with Chris, I told him, I said, after the service was over, I'm like, man, you're great. I said, but I just want to make one mix, the best possible mix. I don't want to do 12 or 15 different mixes for all the people, right? I'm I'm a front of house audio guy. I'm not a monitor guy. So, I talked to Briley after that, and he said, well, let's try you out in front of house. And I've just never gone back. So,
nice.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
That was good. That was encouraging, and had a lot of fun with that over the years. And during the 722 days, when Louis Giglio was at North Point, we had 722 for college and high school students. I ran a production team. We met, once a month. So I had the red team and I video directed. I did camera. I did, all kinds of other stuff. So I got a lot of the tools in the tool chest that you guys have called on sometimes, not willingly. Like I was doing, I was training or testing out someone at front of house in the West one Sunday, and Tina Dula was producing, and the camera operator didn't come back for the closer. It's like center camera. They forgot about the closer. They didn't come back. And so I'm standing there training this new guy, and I look around going, oh my gosh. And I jumped up on the desk, put the headset on, and started running camera. And Tina was so shocked. She was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. And they actually took some of your shots. Yeah, that was fun. So.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, I didn't know you video directed or ran camera. I'll have to let our team know. You might get more invitations in PCO.
There you go. Fill in some more other spots. Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't done anything on the new desk. I mean, that control room's changed so many times since I was back in there, because I remember the old days of the control room back where the offices are now, just to the house left, right behind the glass in the aquarium. And that's back when we had a control room in the West upstairs. Yeah, so lots of changes have happened, lots of new equipment. And I love that about North Point. The thing was frustrating this morning about losing tracks because I'd already dialed in the mix earlier in the week. And then you get in this morning, you're ready. And then something's wrong, something disappears, and we don't have a chance to really test it, right? So Onyx had sent me pink noise. I got to make sure I had tracks. So it was going to be that. And I hate calling the 9 a.m. rehearsal, but sometimes it is,
Yeah, today was one of those days. Yeah, it certainly was.
Because you don't know where that first whistle's going to pop, right? The opener had a real strong whistle, and I had to make sure I had it, and I didn't want to have it too loud, but it all worked out. So, it was great.
That's crazy. Yeah, today was something. So, do you normally come in during the week and do a mix?
I like to, and that's one of the great things about everything going digital, is being able to do virtual sound check and things like that. It just makes it so much easier Sunday morning. Some of the other campuses that I work at around town don't have that option, and they don't do a rehearsal during the week. So you get a little more time in the morning to run through than we do. But, if occasionally, it's no fault of their own, because some of the singers have been singing Saturday night somewhere else, out of town. I've seen people sleeping in the parking lot when I come in the morning. And so they're not giving it 100%, right? They're sandbagging until we get to live production. And so I just want to make sure I've got everything in place to make it as best as possible for the experience and not have to struggle with something live. So that's what trying to come in early if I can helps really.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, you've been there for 20 years, seen a lot of changes. That was something else I wanted to sort of pick your brain about, is being in the volunteer role for so long and seeing so many staff members come and go. I mean, over the 20 years, that's quite a few staff people. How's that transition for you? Does it affect you very much? Maybe not the Sunday to Sunday stuff, but you're like, oh man, I really liked whatever, like shoot, or like, I'm glad that guy's gone, or.
It's, everybody's different. Everybody has a different style. I think, Warren's awesome. And I wish I had more time to get, mentoring from him, but I know he's covered up in his new MD role and audio director role. So I guess in the past, that's been something that's been helpful, is the audio directors, that was their role, right? And so we could do trainings, we could do, hey, let me show you how this new piece of gear works. A lot of it is I have to come in and play or find out after the fact, oh, okay, this is what that does, right? Or go download the manual or do something like that. So, it's fine. And as you said, they expect us to be professionals and do it at that level to be up to speed on what's going on, right? So that's fine. It challenges me to keep up with everything.
Yeah, that's interesting because we don't necessarily do that with our camera operators. We don't expect them to come in and know every detail about what camera they're going to be operating. We a little bit more with the handheld operators because their hands are actually on the camera and there's certain things you have to do. But our stick operators, like, we don't expect them to know the latest and greatest. So that's interesting that you say that you at least feel that you're expected to do that. That's good for me to know as being on staff or as being a person just in general in church production, is to have conversations like this, maybe not necessarily on a podcast, but for person to person, go out to lunch and something and find these kind of expectations out. That's, yeah.
And it may not be
It's really
so
good.
much that, they're expecting you to, but I put that expectation on myself to make it as best as it possibly can be, right? For the experience. I mean, my vision for our role is we're just trying to disappear, right? As traditional production people, fall in the background, not get in the way of the spirit. And so I want to make sure that I have every tool that's available to me. And we have some fantastic tools at North Point. Want to make sure that I know how to use them effectively and solve that problem, or make it sound that much better, right? That's what we're always looking to do, is to make it one step better. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. Speaking of tools, like, how's the transition, between those tools been? Because I know, 5 or 6 years ago, we moved over into the Digico world. We were in the Avid world,
Yeah.
with the C48s and the D shows at Monitor.
Yeah.
How
The venues,
was
the
that
profiles.
transition?
Yeah.
Or whatever we had, I can't remember.
I miss it. I missed that workflow. Yeah. That's one thing when I got to participate, and that was great. They included a lot of the volunteers in participation with all the vendors and everything we brought in to give them our likes and dislikes and feedback. But that was one of the things that, and granted, you shouldn't have to, but I'm always planning for those Sundays like today where, hey, I need to get into my next snapshot or my next scene and increase this or change that. And I got to do it live. I got to do it in the middle of the show, and I can't change snapshots. And the Avid system would let you do that. You could put it into a quick view, make all your changes. It would automate it. It looks like it's going to move, but it doesn't, and the Digicos don't have that. And so that was one of my things coming from Avid. I was like, I'll miss that. That's for sure. That's very handy to have. But the desks are great. I mean, we always have some great technology. I know we've struggled, and Digico's been very helpful trying to get that pop, that few millisecond pop out of the rings and things like that. So, but we're on the bleeding edge, right? I mean, that's one of the things that makes North Point is there, Brendan and the team always is out there, NAB, looking for the latest, trying to stay on the cutting edge, right? And so it's tough. I'm in the technology world normally, and that's what it is. You're on the bleeding edge.
The transition there, what all kind of things did the vendors ask, or like what were some of the considerations or questions that you were asked during that transition between Avid and the options that were presented? I don't know fully all of the options that we looked at. I know we looked at SSL and Digico, and I don't think the S6L, right? Avid's new console wasn't out yet.
No.
So what was that like?
It was great. I mean, to meet some of the vendors and to get to play with the desks, right, in a virtual sound check type of mode, see how the faders feel, see how the knobs work, see how the UI looks, and just trying to think about it in our perspective from a volunteer, what we go through with service, like sitting behind whoever was running sound for that test. It was middle of the afternoon or on a Sunday, and just watching them go through the paces of song to song to song and thinking through, okay, we got this transition. Am I going to grab a fader? Am I going to automate it? Some of those things will just bite you before you know it if you don't test it and you're trying to do it live. But no, that was great. I mean, they really took their time, and I think we got at least a 1 week or maybe 2 out of some of those desks in the East to play with and listen to. And it was amazing to me to notice the difference in quality, right? And a lot of it is plugins, a lot of it is how you set up the gains and set up the signal flow through the board. But you could definitely tell when we changed desks, just that much better, right? It's always taking it up another notch and another level. Same thing when we got a new PA. It's like, wow, this is so great.
It is crazy because the PA didn't change. It was just the consoles, and the Avids were getting old, and that was the reason to start. Start moving to something else. But it's crazy the difference. And then hopefully in the next, I don't think we're slated for a new PA for a couple more years, but
right.
But when we do transition to that, just the difference that's going to make, I think, just because that PA has been there for probably 15 years now.
Oh gosh, no. Well, I know the East maybe. I remember in the West, we struggled for so long with the old one in the West. Went from a left, center, right to 2 side stacks, which I really like the center. Just the audible guy, liking having the speaker dead center. That was. That was one of the things people used to say that was my auditorium was the West, because I had been there so long, and the West is just such a unique animal with those cement walls, and you take the chairs out, things like that. It gets really squirrely. And that old PA, we made that old PA last for so long before we got the new one. Yeah, and
So that was that the Rankis Hines
yeah,
system in there.
mhm.
So they transitioned to the Meyer. Oh gosh, is it the no Milo?
I
No,
think it is Milo. I think
is
so.
it Milo?
I think so.
Milo. And then finally they put the Milo in the West as well.
Hmm.
Okay, so the West is newer. Oh, all right. Well, there you go. Who'd have thought?
Hmm.
Yeah, because that's not how we sort of do things anymore. Like, because when we did consoles for both auditoriums.
Right.
But
And you may be right. It may have been, it's been so long now, it may have been West first and then East.
oh no, it was before me.
Yeah.
You were, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Again, there's been so many changes, like you said.
Yeah,
It's a lot of years.
that's crazy. That's awesome. And that's one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about because again, like I know I keep saying it, but like you're still volunteer, and we can't do this without you, literally, because we do have a second auditorium. We need two front house engineers and we need two monitor engineers, which is very not the norm. It's not even probably anything else anybody else does. And some would argue that nobody else should because it's something else. It's really cool hearing that, and then the 20 years of history with you doing that. What's something that you're looking forward to for the future? Like in your role, are you looking like, oh, I want to learn how to do this so I can do things better? Or have you seen stuff in the industry? I know it's not your day-to-day thing, but I don't know if you've seen things that are up and coming, fun to play with.
I haven't touched one of the touchscreen consoles yet. I mean, I've seen them in trade shows and demos and stuff like that. I've never actually run one. And I work for Samsung, so I'm always on touchscreens and doing that. But there's always some unique differences to me. I'm so used to hands-on fader actively driving the mix. I'm always moving something to feature a guitar solo or this soloist or add more reverb or something like that. And so that's going to be interesting. That's something that I'm like, oh, I could try that sometime. I haven't tried that yet. I have the opportunity.
Yeah. So you work for Samsung. Is there anything in your like, your 40-hour work week that helps or, transitions to being front of house engineer on a Sunday?
Probably not in my current role as a people leader. Probably not. In the past, I was a sales engineer, systems engineer, so actively out on with customers and being able to help set up demos, or you're always in a new conference room. You're always in, so being able to help patch in, get the audio from the device, wirelessly cast it. I mean, there's all those kinds of things that do somewhat translate to what we do on Sunday.
Being on the volunteer production team for so long, how have you seen sort of the volunteer culture shift, or has it sort of always been, I don't know, the way? I mean, I guess I need to explain what the way it is because nobody else is at North Point. But has it always been showing up at 6:40 in the morning and sync check and all this, or what's been those transitions or the cultural transitions been like for you over the 20 years?
Well, maybe TD can come in at 6:40, but audio gets there earlier. So we have sync check at 6:15. So yeah, I'm usually there a little after 6. But Warren and you and others do a great job of turning everything on. I'm happy to turn it all on. I'm used to that. In the past, I've filled in when we didn't have an audio director on staff, for a long period of time. So I got there early, came in during the week, helped with patching, those kinds of things in the past. So
let's touch on that a little bit more. Like what kind of was that also self-motivated, or were you asked to sort of step in and fill those roles?
Probably a little of both. I mean, because I know what it took to get ready for Sunday, right? As you guys do throughout the week, that's your job. And people just think, oh, they're just there on Sunday. I know how it is. My wife was on staff before. It's like, oh, they don't work on Sundays. No, there's plenty of stuff to do during the week to get ready for Sunday, right? Especially you guys in engineering. But yeah, it probably was a little bit of both. Just knowing that, I think Micah or others would say, hey, can you come in and help? Because, a couple of those transitions, we just knew we weren't going to have anybody, and there wasn't the plethora of contractors that we had at the time we have now to fill in. So
Okay, sorry, I
No.
sidetracked your train of thought. Well, because I just didn't know that you did. I mean, you've done so much. It's crazy, which is amazing. And I was also volunteering for one of our campuses before I was ever on staff, and so I know how I was treated, and which was very good. Let me just say that. And so I try to do the same thing as now a staff person. So I'm curious as to like the staff or the volunteer culture because it's very important. I'm always working to try to at least keep status quo, if not try to make it a little bit better every Sunday.
No, we appreciate that. And yeah, North Point is all about the volunteers, as you said. Andy says it all the time from stage. He comes by the desk when he comes walking in early in the morning and says thank you, all the time. And that's appreciative. It absolutely is. And food, everything else, they go out of their way to make it paid, and helping out the church. And we do it because we love it, and it is getting to touch that technology and make such an impact. I mean, that's one of the things that fills my cup, is being at the desk and seeing the crowd react, feeling the presence while that song is going, and emotion and everything like that. I mean, it's powerful. It's a drug, in a lot of respects. I tell people my drug of choice is B3, the Leslie B3 organ, but it is quite an experience. And I think the volunteer, that may lead back to my other comment about having to pour into volunteers and train. And, you guys do a great job with fun night events. Like they had the movie on the lawn last night or Friday night. So things like that. It's harder in the audio world. It's almost like the band, because we don't get to be back in the room, the green room, for the morning prayer and the set list and things like that. We're running stuff, checking inputs, things like that. So yeah, it's sad that we're a little more detached, monitors and audio, from cameras and everything else like that. So I don't get to interact as much, other than outside events or things like that. So, but they really do a good job trying to bring everybody together. It's a family. They're very connected. I mean, I get birthday cards from you guys. I get calls and check-ins. Gwen is phenomenal. I've worked with her for so long. She ran a camera for me at 722.
Yeah.
So I've worked with
She
Gwen
runs
for
a camera every
time.
now and then now.
Exactly. Yeah. I've seen her on stage recently. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I firmly believe that every church needs a Gwen,
Yes.
taking care of volunteers. Yeah. Yeah. Every church needs a Gwen taking care of your volunteers. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool. I just had a question. That was it. You mentioned that because of the flow on Sunday mornings, that you're not always able to, well, not always, you're not able to go and visit the production meetings and stuff like that, or be at the production meetings. Is that something that you would want to see changed if the schedule could be adjusted, or do you find value in maybe all coming together first and then going out, or like, do you have any thoughts on that? And if you don't, it's fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, we used to do it. I don't know if you were here then or not. We used to do it on the stage in the East, right? We used to stop, letting the band noodle and goof off, and then we would all get on the East stage and go through the day, pray, and then go to positions right before run through. But that's just kind of merged into one. So yeah, I think it would be great if we go back to that. Some of the other campuses that I work at do that, that are not North Point campuses. So yeah, that's a good feeling too, because it's, especially if you're just coming in once a month or every 2 months. Hey, Mike, getting to see somebody that you haven't seen in a while, things like that. So
how is that? I mean, like as like a contractor could potentially be there multiple weeks in a row, and very familiar with things, or they've seen the changes from one week to the next. But for you, it's like every other week or every third week. I'm not too familiar with your schedule, but how's that being in the role that you are, and only being there like every second week or every third week?
It's tough, and it's gotten a little tougher in North Point recently, because I've started working in the transit room, and adding some other stuff in there. So it's harder for Warren to get me on the schedule far enough in advance, because some of these other campuses book well in advance. But yeah, I do miss that. And having been on staff at other churches and running it every Sunday, I was built for that. I enjoy that. doesn't bother me at all. You know, if everything else went away and I was just at North Point every Sunday, I'd be totally happy with that. You know, so it does make it easier to have a more intimate knowledge of everything, wiring, patching, all the things that Warren and you and the rest of the team do to set us up well for Sunday. You just know it instinctively. And when those things like this morning happen, I could go probably fix it myself instead of having to engage and slow down the east or slow down, run through, because, hey, this is a critical component for the opener. We got to have it working. Let's stop and fix it. Take 5 minutes, So that's the thing. And that probably leads back to the mentoring, hands-on training that we were able to have in the past, is we have those team nights just for coming in. Here's what we're adding. We just added new patch bays, those kinds of things. Set lists and things like that. So
yeah, we haven't really done the training night in a while. That's something we do need to get back to doing. What's something that other churches that you're contracting with that you've been like, hey, that's a great idea, maybe we should do that at North Point?
Interesting question. I don't know that I see enough outside that I would want us to adopt. I mean, in my opinion, the only thing close would be a Passion. In our area, in Atlanta area, probably the other larger non-denominational church. But I find myself passing on North Point knowledge to these other places I'm working, because they're much smaller. They're either a newer production team or something like that. And just being able to, a lot of it is just years behind the desk sitting next to the producer. And in my older roles at other churches where I was on staff, I would do all that, right? I would advance the lyrics and things like that from the desk, so I'm always looking at other things, pointing out things in the 10 before. I know you guys hate that, but it's like, hey, did you notice the lip sync was off? Did you notice? We just want to make it better. But, being in front of house, you see a lot of those things with lighting and stage, and, you guys live it week to week, and it may not be first on your radar, but, things like that, just trying to help another. Hey, what if we did this in the flow? I changed your template in the soundboard because this is how we do it. And it makes it less, something's not going to pop up in the middle of a transition, mess up the sermon, things like that. Oh, great idea, And so, yeah, we appreciate that. So I've been able to bring a lot of the things that we do well to other camps. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I've seen in the last year or so that I'm like, wow, I wish North Point would do that. We're always cutting edge, leading edge out there and pushing that. So.
I just don't want to be so arrogant as to think that we can't learn from other churches either. So I always want to know, like, oh, hey, that church is doing something really, really cool. Well, so I guess take the inverse of that question. What are some things that you're continuously telling some of the churches? Like, is there something that you've told like each church that has helped make their services better, that maybe the listeners on this might be like, oh, that's really cool, or might find relevant? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your previous question, something just popped in that I do like at some of these other churches. They do a little more music set than we do, and I don't know if it's, we've got too long of a welcome, or the message may go long. I know we're trying to manage multiple campuses, and they're not, so they can do 4 songs back to back at the beginning and lead right into the message. So that's something that I would bring to North Point more. And I know we're starting to do that more, especially when we're not originating campus.
So some of that is intentional, and some of that is a time thing. When we have a live speaker on stage, it's gonna be right at that 2 and maybe a tag of another song. And then when we're receiving from another campus, we do have that a little bit of time to add a third song or add a longer tag. But generally, I mean, we do keep it at that 2-song sort of area, just for that person that's the first time here and maybe uncomfortable with even just one worship song. And, to make them but like to have them standing for 15 minutes while we do 4 songs. Those are just some of the things that we're the service programming team is thinking about, because we all like the worship music, and we'd love to do more songs, but it's always just taken that one person, that one guy that was just like, let's give this a try for this 1 week.
And it's
Yeah.
great that
It's tough.
we still have first time guests and visitors who've never experienced our environment. It still seems shocking to me after 25 years of the church being right there in Alpharetta, and lots of other churches in the South and the Bible Belt, a lot of them doing similar content and things like that. You're like, wow, you've never been to a church like this before. You've never heard, Yeah. So it's amazing. It's good to think about that too.
Yeah, I still get, odd looks when I'm like, yeah, I work at North Point Community Church. And they're like, I mean, not everybody goes to church. I get that.
Right.
But yeah, we just live in it so much. It's like, really? All right. But yeah, it's just kind of that's kind of fun. Yeah, the music set. Yeah, that's always the sort of attention that is managed. And yeah, that's why we're doing, that's why we like to do night of worships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to sort of scratch that itch. Well, Jay, this has been awesome.
Yeah, Aaron, thanks for inviting me.
Do you have any other last thoughts or reflections on your time as a volunteer working in audio world in general?
No, I love it. I'm humbled to be able to turn knobs for you guys, and that they still ask me back. They always joke around and say you're only as good as your last mix, right? So I love it.
True.
That I'm able to do what I get to do. It just fills my cup, and it is just such a great environment, such a great team. You and everybody else on staff go out of your way to put Christ first and the message out there, but also pour into the volunteers. And that's all I want to do. It's my home church, and I want to make it better, and keep pouring into it. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Fantastic.
That's great. And thank you for what you do, and thanks for being a part of this podcast. And yeah, thanks so much, Jay.
Absolutely, Aaron. Have a great day, buddy.
Yeah, you too.